right, welcome to the Weekly Word, where I take one of the lectionary texts from last Sunday and share a 5 to 10 minute devotional. If you're new, my name is Rob Steinbach, and I am a transitional deacon in the process to become a priest in the Anglican Church in North America in the Cascadia Diocese. And I am preparing to plant a new church called Shalom Anglican. We are actually beginning this Saturday with some initial meetings. And so you are invited to check those out if you're interested. And so there'll be some more information about that at the end of the devotional. Okay, so today we're going to reflect on Matthew 22, verses 15 through 22, which was our gospel text this last Sunday. So Jesus is in Jerusalem. This is the week before he would go to the cross for the sins of the world. And this section in Matthew's gospel, it highlights that Jesus had a lot of haters, right? He had a lot of trolls on his social media accounts, you know what I'm saying? And there was tension for him. And in the first few verses of this passage, Matthew tells us something interesting. He tells us that two groups got together and they attempted to entangle Jesus in his words. They planned how they were going to kind of trip Jesus up. They didn't like Jesus speaking in the temple and having an influence on people. And so they got together. What's funny about these two groups is that they didn't necessarily like each other, but they kind of had a common enemy in Jesus. You got the Pharisees, who were the Jewish religious leaders. These were like the fundamentalist types, zealous for the scriptures, right? And then you had the Herodians, who were the Roman authorities. Again, two groups didn't like each other. And so they got together to try to trap Jesus, to get him to pick a side. Whose side are you on, Jesus? We're going to try to trap you to pick a side in front of everyone. And so that's the title for this devotional, right? Whose side are you on? We live in a day of sides, don't we? Right? Everything there's only two options, and you got to pick one. You're either for us or against us. But many things aren't like that. Not everything has a clear side to pick. Some supposed sides need to be reworked, and that's what Jesus does here. The Pharisees and the Herodians come to Jesus, and they have this political trap when they ask him this. Teacher, we know that you are true and teach the way of God truthfully, and you do not care about anyone's opinion, for you are not swayed by appearances. Tell us then, what do you think? Tell us what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? They butter up Jesus, compliment him. And here's the question. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? This is a trap. Okay, this has to do with the controversial poll tax. If Jesus supports the tax, he would be viewed as unpatriotic from the Jews. If he supports it. If he opposes it, right, that was politically dangerous. He could be arrested. So whose side are you on, Jesus? Pick a side. We got him now. We got Jesus now, right? This was their trap. And I feel this a lot among Christians. It's so easy for us to get trapped by this two-side kind of approach to everything. You see this a lot with politics. You see this with some theological issues. But I love what Jesus does. Jesus, he always seems to help us to see something bigger. That whatever we thought were the two sides, that there's another side, that there's a Jesus side. There's a Jesus side. Maybe I should have entitled the devotional that, a Jesus side. So here's what happens next. Jesus, he's aware of their malice. And he says, why put me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin for the tax. And they brought him a denarius. They're like, get out. He's like, get out a coin. And Jesus said to them, whose likeness and inscription is this? And they said, Caesar's. And then he said to them, therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. It says that they all just went away and marveled in the next verse. They had no comeback for Jesus, right? And so what Jesus is doing here is he's exposing the Pharisees' hypocrisy, because they were carrying around coins that essentially say, Caesar, the Son of God. That's the inscription it talks about. Caesar, the Son of God. And so they're carrying around sort of this idolatrous metal, if you will, in their pockets. in responding to them, Jesus, he's saying, look, we have no problem paying taxes, okay? If you're enjoying Caesar's roads, his protection from invasion, his education, then pay the tax. That's what Jesus is saying. And so in doing this, it's interesting, he kind of distances himself from the more zealot fundamentalist crowd. He puts himself more in a moderate space. This team wanted him to kind of virtue signal, right, to be on their team, to say, we're not going to pay the tax. But at the same time, Jesus also challenges worship to Caesar. Because this was a day when participating in the Roman economy required you to participate in worship to the Roman gods. So those two things went side by side. And you'll see this especially in the first century for Christians and the first few hundred years. And that's some of the persecution they experienced was due to this. But what Jesus does is he separates respect for the government and love for the one true God, right? Again, these were combined in his day. So Jesus says, give to the government, what they need, but more importantly, give to God the things that are God's, right? He's like, I don't really care about these coins. Fine, throw them in the pot. But when it comes to greater matters, like your very selves, give yourself to God. Don't be satisfied with picking temporary sides and feeling self-righteous about it. Look beyond that, right? Give your whole self to God. God is bigger than sides. For if you give yourself to him, you will be righteous, right? You will know that the only side that matters is his. And I think that's the point of this passage. So thanks for listening. For more information on our church plant, just watch the slide that'll come up at the end of this, and it'll give you more details on our meetings. Thanks again, y'all. Shalom.